Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Lionel here, and today I have a another fragrance review for you. Um, I do sort of have a recommendation video that I think I may do next if I have time. But with that said, I want to jump right into this review. This fragrance comes from the house of Histoires De Parfums, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys have heard of them. 1725, Ombre 114. Um, they have a few fragrances in the line that I think are gaining popularity. However, I still think this is one of the most underrated and overlooked houses in American perfume appreciation, especially as it relates to YouTube. I think YouTube just has sort of skipped over this house, in which in the past you had a lot of opportunity to really experience this house. I think they got a little smart or saw people abusing the system and ended up changing their sample testing. Originally, maybe a year ago, or maybe they just offered it as a trial. You can get about any fragrance in their portfolio in a sample, and you will get about almost 12 meals for $10 ship. I think maybe it's 5 or 6, maybe 10 meals for $10 ship, with a corresponding coupon that looked like this, which that code gets you your money back if you buy a full bottle. So I'm still stuck on which full bottle to buy. I will own one of these within the next year. I'm pretty sure. I have a pretty substantial uh, sample or size of. I bought I got some samples and I ended up getting a decan of Ombre 114, which is probably my favorite amber fragrance. Between that New York Amber, um, but anyway, within that I ordered a second set, and in the second set I ended up getting a few more of their line, and then I bought a couple of sets off of people who really didn't like them. I referred them to, or they didn't like it. And we ended up either swapping and selling. So I ended up with a lot of samples, maybe about 50 mils of their fragrances, maybe about 50 mils of their fragrances over a different amount, um, or different freight. 50 mils total of maybe 4 or 5 different fragrances. The most, again, is I think Ombre 114. But with that said, you still may be able to sample. I just don't know what their policy is now. So with that said, so as you know, it comes from the House of Historia de Parfum, and this one is called 1740. Something's happening with my lighting, so I think the sun outside sort of changed. So hopefully this doesn't look too faded, or the lighting is too bad for you. Anyway, so 1740. Now, what's unique is this. This house isn't relatively young. It has been around for some time, maybe around 15 years or so, maybe even longer. But I'm pretty sure it's been about 15 years since they first introduced their first fragrance. Historia de Parfum, and this one is 1740. Now, you can't see that because I smudged the line and I don't really do the fancy labels. But I have this decan. I think I have maybe another 8 mils of it. So maybe I have somewhere between 12 to 15 mils of this stuff. And it is a gorgeous one. So let me tell you real quick. I consider it an Oriental Woody. It was created in 2000. And I just want to be honest, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous fragrance. Now, a real quick, if I would have met this fragrance 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I probably would have not liked this. Just because of the exposure, my nose has changed, my tastes have changed. Much like anything else, wine, clothes, shoes, all of that stuff, music has even changed. So, 1740 was a fragrance that I think if I would have met it a few years ago, I probably would have not been put off, but just said this isn't for me. Now it's a fragrance that just is magnetic to me. I gravitate towards these types of fragrances. To be real quick, I just want to give you the notes, and you can pull them right off of Fragrantica, but I just want to give you the notes so I can explain them to you. In the top, you have Artemisia, and you have bergamot. In the heart, you have patchouli, cardamom, and coriander. And in the base, you have cedar, you have labdanum, you also have leather, birch wood, I think immortal, vanilla, And finally, you have um, Elmi, Elamai Racing, or just a racing. I'll just leave it like that. So, quickly, how does the Historia pay? How does 1740 from Historia de Parfum work? It is slightly spicy, and that comes from I'm pretty sure that's coming from the pepper type notes, the coriander, the cardamom, those things. So it has that one with a little sweetness, with leather, and I get tobacco. I mean, people, it doesn't mention tobacco as a note, but it to me is very, it has a very tobacco type of appeal to it. Leather, birchwood, vanilla. So as it opens a bit spicy and woody. Um, I can really categorize this as something that smells sort of similar to a very high end Tom Ford Extreme, or maybe even in the vein of Japan Noir. As the fragrance starts to open up more, you start to get the leather component, and immediately as this leather component comes, it's not an animalistic leather. It is a very shoe leather jacket, refined type of leather, and it is accompanied by this landanum. Now I know it is in the base, but this is really in the heart. And I don't really feel the presence of the vanilla, and maybe because the ladanum is sort of adding a amberish type of note to it, so it sort of has a sweetness to it, but it's dry. So it's very similar to the sweetness, or the yeah, so sort of similar to the sweetness you get in Eau de Beau from the Octane. You know, it's not a syrupy sweetness; it's sort of a dry, hazy type of sweetness, but it's thick. And I think that thickness is coming from the racinic note. So I think the raisin and the French ladanum and maybe the vanilla and some of this woodiness is causing this sweetness to come along, but it's a dry, dense, thick sweetness, but it's coupled with this very dry, woody, almost like a antique furniture store type of woodiness, and they just combine to make this super unique aroma to my nose that is just ultimately appealing to me. It is just unbelievable. It sort of has this classic feel. I mean, you smell it and you'll say, "This smells like an older." Well, not an older, but you just don't know how to categorize it because you can see, a 25-year-old, 23-year-old pulling this off, but you would think it's sort of a little old fashioned for him. And you would also approach a 50-year-old man, refined, classic English gentleman, right? Um, and was like, well, that's sort of modern for him. That's sort of unique. So it sort of has this, it sort of has this timeliness, sort of versatility as it relates to age that just sort of transcends a box, right? You can't really put this fragrance in any sort of box because it just sort of transcends. I can't really point to it. Not only that, it's you would think it's ultra masculine, but I would easily see a sophisticated woman wearing this fragrance without a doubt. I think it would actually be really sexy on a 30-year-old professional woman in corporate America, black pencil skirt, white top, black heels, um, you know, nice, hair is done up, beautiful manicure. I can see her pulling it off, right? So the only thing I can't see this fragrance is wear it as a super casual type of fragrance. I just don't see this. You just spraying it on, you're gonna run to the store. It commands a sort of respect and a sort of sophistication. I wouldn't call it formal, and I really wouldn't call it, ultra professional. I wouldn't see you playing with this fragrance much. It's just not one of those fragrances that you just squirt on to have a good time. I don't see it in the club environment. I see it at a nice dinner. I see it at a professional environment. I see it even as a date scent, but it just sort of transcends all of that also. So the best way I can categorize this as a woody, slightly spicy, little sweet signature fragrance for a sophisticated person. That's the best way I can put it. Now, so let me get into the performance of it. It performs excellently. Four sprays from this. I forgot where we got these atomizers from. I bought a bunch of them when I split. Anyway, two to three sprays would be sufficient in any weather. Two sprays if it's hot. Tops two sprays if it's warm. The sillage and projection are perfect. I mean, I'm talking about here, so my arm length away, somebody, if you're passing someone, they're smelling you. If they come into your space, they're smelling you. But it's not a slap you in the face type of aroma. It just doesn't go out and just start to disturb people. It's not a menthol type of projection, but it projects. The sillage is perfect. I think it leaves a nice trail. It leaves it's going to leave a fingerprint or a fragrance print wherever you go. If you sit in the office and you leave, somebody else is going to come in there and smell it and say, "Wow, that smells great." What is that? As it relates to longevity, all day. I've never had a problem with it, but it does get to the classic French and woody amber, little spicy type of base note fragrance, but very, very sophisticated, very, very quality in that. But it is a traditional dry down. I'll just let you know that. But it lasts 8 to 10 hours easily, easily, easily. And I'm talking about not digging your nose last. I'm talking about you're getting a nice bubble at the 8 to 10 hour mark. Um, Compliment factor, I've always been complimented. And funny thing is, it's so funny. I have certain people that I work with who um, who compliment me on fragrances that I wear multiple times. Like they have a scent memory of certain things that I wear, and they always seem to compliment me on it. And this one, there's about three women, and it's funny. They're all older, 45, 50-year-old white women who enjoy it. I mean, every time I wear it, you're wearing my favorite, Lionel. So it's one of those types of things. But no one has ever been turned off by it. I've asked people before who usually compliment me on other things, and they're like, "No, that smells really good." But they just never, it was never unsolicited. But there's about three women that just unsolicited compliments every time I wear this. So overall, now the price point factor. If you get the 120 mil of this, you can get it for a very. I mean, they're a little expensive. I think about 200 bucks or so for 120 mil, which puts it a little below $2 a mil. A little on the pricier, but it's definitely worth it in my perspective. However, the great thing about them is that you can go perfumeshop.com, perfumeshop.com, which has a entity in Canada and one in Arizona, carries the 14 mils, and I think they're around $36 shipped. And also, I've seen these on eBay in that 14 milliliter bottle, about reasonably priced, anywhere between 28, 24 to 35, $36 shipped. So right along the lines of what you can buy at retail. Overall, I'll give this fragrance high marks, about a 4.5. If you like things like Japan Noir, if you like things like Tom Ford Extreme, any of those spicy, woody, leathery like fragrances. And there's a couple of things from Hermes that I recall that have some characteristics like this. Something like a Duro, but a lot milder, a lot less in your face. Overall, this is a quality fragrance, and Historia de Parfums is a quality house. I really appreciate what they do. They have some gorgeous fragrances. This is probably my second favorite behind Ombre 114, but this runs a close to a fragrance called Tuberose 3, which is an animalistic tuberose. Tuberose is a flower. So anyway, great fragrance. I really greatly appreciate you guys watching me. You take care. Merry Christmas. If I don't interact with you again, I'm pretty sure I will. So that's it for me. Thank you. God bless.